government has given the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information a budget of $100 billion for the 2017-2018 fiscal year, the second highest amount allocated to a ministry.
We've gotten probably one of the largest increases of any ministry, over $5 billion.
Of the $100 billion allocated, $98.7 billion has been earmarked for household or recurrent expenses, while the remaining $1.67 billion is for the capital budget or spending on long-term development projects. The bulk of the capital budget, $1 billion, will be funded by the government, while bilateral and multilateral funds will cover the remainder. Let's now zoom in on how the $98.7 billion allocated for household or recurrent expenses will be divided. Starting with the first level of education. Over $3.3 billion has been earmarked for the delivery of early childhood education, 10% more than last year's figure.
This administration recognizes the need to intervene in the lives of children even before they enter the formal education system. The ministry budgeted some $30 million to partner with the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security to reactivate the early stimulation program for mother and child from birth to age 3. This program has been revamped and is being implemented through the Early Childhood Commission.
For the delivery of primary education, government has set aside $27.9 billion. Included in this figure is an increase in the allocation for grades 1 and 2 students.
The primary school regular grant will be increased as of September 2017 from $850 per student in terms of allocation to $2,500 per student.
More secondary school students will stand a chance of qualifying for entry into university with the provision of $400 million to cover external exam fees for at least 5 subjects for PATH beneficiaries. This nearly doubles last year's allocation.
The government offers support for math, English, science subject, and of course IT. But not everybody do, in fact, sit to science or IT. This year, we, as a government, have supported an additional subject for students who are on the PATH program and award of the state.
The total allocation for the delivery of secondary education went up by over $3 billion. In recognition of the importance of nutrition to education, government has increased its budget for the school feeding program, which feeds students from the early childhood to secondary levels.
The government has given us $2.4 billion more for nutrition. That takes the budget now up to about $5.2 billion. And, it has been the largest significant movement within our budget. So the government is really committed to reaching out to the poor and the vulnerable. The government actually has committed to providing a meal, certainly lunch, for each PATH student for 5 days per week. And we also will have to target those who are vulnerable.
Some primary and secondary schools can expect a major facelift, as the amount set aside for schools' infrastructure development has more than tripled, moving from $33 million to $103 million. $100 million of this amount is for the repair of selected primary schools. Close to $1 billion has been slotted for funding post-secondary education, up from nearly $800 million. This will make provisions for those students under the Career Advancement Program. At the tertiary level, financial assistance to students more than quadrupled, moving from $6 million to $34 million. The promotion of youth development remains high on the government's agenda, as reflected in the 19% increase in funds set aside for youth development services. The $168 million allocation for the 15 to 24 age group will help fund initiatives such as youth empowerment projects, youth information centers, the Possibility Street Children's Program, and the Jamaica Youth Ambassadors Program, which was launched earlier this year. The allocation made to Youth Information Centers, YICs, doubled, moving from $13 to $26 million. YICs are youth-friendly spaces with cyber cafes and provide the focal point for the work of youth organizations. $224 million has been earmarked for information. More than half, $180 million, has been reserved for the operations of the Public Broadcasting Commission. A major highlight of the Capital A budget is a 77% increase in allocation for the school's solar project. It's aimed at reducing schools' electricity bills by between 40 and 70%. For the Capital B budget, which is jointly financed by government and its multilateral and bilateral partners, early childhood projects take the spotlight. Under the Early Childhood Institutions project, funded by the Chinese government, $100 million has been earmarked for the construction of early childhood institutions, and $45 million will go to the Early Childhood Commission.